Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to crochet the Peony Fields headband. So this is a pattern that comes in lots of different sizes. We are going to be doing the child size. The pattern is written for 0 months all the way up to adult. So if you want to make it in a different size or multiple sizes, it's all in the pattern. You're going to be using 3 different colors of worsted weight yarn because we're going to be braiding them together. And this is going to be just double crochet and braiding pretty much and sewing it together. So let me walk you through exactly what I'm going to do for the child size. So I'm going to make a slip stitch with my worsted weight yarn, and then I'm using an I-9 crochet hook, and with that we are going to loosely chain 52. So our next step is get a little bit of yarn so we don't get stuck. We're going to double crochet back through all these chains. Now what I like to do to make the edges a little bit more neat is that I'm going to actually take this chain, and if you look you can kind of see they're all a whole bunch of sideways V's or sideways loops. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm actually going to be looking at this one single horizontal bump that's on the bottom of each of these chains, and that's where I'm going to be inserting my hook to do the double crochet. So I'm going to flip it back over and count 3 chains away from the hook. So 1, 2, 3. Flip that chain over and look for that back single loop. Now to do double crochet, we're going to yarn over and insert it into that one chain, the back bottom of the chain. Whoops. Grab all your yarn and pull it through just that one. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to do that the whole way across. So again, you're going to yarn over, find this back bottom of the chain, yarn over and pull through that 1. Now we yarn over, pull through 2. Whoops, lost my yarn. Yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to yarn over, go into that bottom, pull through, yarn over 1, yarn over 2. Now this is a little bit tedious, this first row, just because you're trying to get into just this bottom part of it. But for these bigger sizes, when we come back, it's actually going to be a lot easier. So don't be discouraged. Okay, so I reached to the end of the row. I have my 52 stitches. Now if you're doing the 0 to 6 or 6 to 12 months, that's all you're going to do. You're going to cut your yarn, weave in your ends, and go on to your next color. But for all the other sizes, we are actually going to double crochet another row, going back the other direction. This row is going to go much quicker. It's easier to grab the next stitches because we are actually going to be grabbing this top loop. So we are going to be grabbing those 2 stitches, or those 2 pieces of yarn, those 2 pieces of yarn, those 2 pieces of yarn. So also, if you are having a child who's learning to crochet, this is a good time to pass it over to them because this part is a little easier. They have something to hold as they work instead of that kind of wiggly just chain edge. And also you're grabbing the easier part of the yarn. We are going to chain 2, and now we are going to flip. So our chain 2 is here, our yarn is looped on our hook, and we are going to work our way back, still doing double crochet. So yarn over, 1, 2, we don't want to do either of those 2 chains. We're going to work right into this first stitch, and we're going to pull the yarn through those 2 pieces of yarn, and then 1, 2, double crochet. Same thing as we did before. Yarn over, go through both pieces of the stitch, yarn over 1, yarn over through 2. And we're going to go all the way back across, getting the entire stitch the whole way. not just grabbing the bottom of it anymore. Okay, now we've made our way all the way back. Now we have our 2 rows of double crochet, and we're going to cut the yarn right there. Just pull your hook straight through like that. And we are going to weave in ends because we're actually going to do something different when it comes time to sewing it together. So we're going to take our yarn needle and put an end through, and we're just going to weave in our ends. And then cut. And then we're going to grab the other end that we started on and also weave in the ends there. Okay, so that's one completely done. We're done with color A, and we're going to move on to color B. Okay, you're going to slip knot and again chain 52 loosely. Okay, so we have our 3 crocheted strips. What we're going to do is line them all up, and then we are going to braid them so that both the ends have the same order of colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand over the colors as I go because I don't want the strips to curl. And I'm not trying to make this a tight braid. If I make it a tight braid, it's going to become a shorter headband and it's not going to fit the size that I want. And you kind of just play around with it until you get it back in the order that it should go. So I'm kind of bunched up here and not very bunched down here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of loosen it as I work my way up. Like that. Okay, so we have a nice subtle braid happening here. I usually pick the color that is my center of the braid, top to bottom. And what we're going to do is with a yarn needle, we're going to cut pieces of that center yarn. With the yarn needle, we're going to sew the yarn, this yarn, through all 3 strips at each intersection. So I'm going to sew here, I'm going to sew here, sew here, sew here, sew here, sew here. Don't sew the seams together yet because we're going to want to play around with this end part. So I'm going to try to not grab both loops. I'm going to try to work through just the back side loops of all my strips so that I don't see anything on the front side. So all of these things that I'm sewing are going to become the back, or I guess the inside of the headband. So I'm just going to tie a knot and tie a double knot and go to the next intersection and then double knot that. You don't want to pull it really tight or else you're going to pull one side of a crochet stitch. Okay, when you get to about here, you're going to flip the entire headband over, get it how the order you had it, and you're going to bring the 2 ends together to meet. So now we're going to seam each strip together on itself, and then we'll go through and finish the last seaming of the colors all 3 together. So you're just going to use the yarn and the color you used, so sewing back and forth, and I'm just going to whip stitch. Across one way, and then I'll go about halfway back up. And cut that. And then attach the other one and whip stitch about halfway. And then we're going to take the other color, thread your needle, and then your final color, thread, the yarn needle, and seam it. Okay, so we've seamed everything. We've connected all the pieces. We're gonna grab our yarn again, the middle color, and we're gonna connect the 3 strips again, right here at the seam. Okay, now for where we connected them, you will want to make sure you're weaving them in only on the color of this yarn, or else you're gonna see pieces of this color yarn woven into here and here. So, or you can just cut them. If you know this is going to be the back and it's not something you care as much about what it looks like, you can just cut them short. Okay, we flip it right side out, and here is our headband.